WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is receiving a lot of backlash for her recent interview that she did on CNBC, where she sidestepped the notion of the racial stuff that's going on in the WNBA. Breanna Stewart now has come out and said her piece. But before we get off into today's podcast, tell a friend to tell a friend. Well, the WNBA's Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, man, she's receiving a lot of backlash and a lot of criticism. And the latest has came from the WNBA's Player Association. One of their members, Breanna Stewart, has spoken out, and she was upset. It's very disappointing, what Breanna Stewart said that Cathy Engelbert did. And she said it's disappointing. And we all know, for those that have been living under a rock, we know what's going on in the WNBA. Now, we have a great rookie class that came into the league, and it has set the league on fire with the likes of Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Rakia Jackson, Cameron Brink, but we all know Cameron Brink went down with a knee injury. Aaliyah Edwards. There's a lot of rookies in here that we can name that are making an impact, Camila Cardoso. But the two that stand out is Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. And the WNBA commissioner was on CNBC, and she was doing an interview. And the host asked her a question about the two players, and Angel Reese and also Caitlin Clark. And the host noticed, and he's woke because he's been paying attention to social media and everything that's going on. He said it's not about the two players, it's about the racism and sexism and things that come along with that and all the hate. And he was referring basically to the stuff that he's seeing that's going toward Angel Reese. And he asked the WNBA commissioner a question, and she sidestepped it totally. She totally dropped the ball. And all she had to do was start her soliloquy off saying that we don't tolerate that nonsense in the WNBA, and then move on to what she stated on later in her soliloquy. So if she would have did that, I think it wouldn't have been no issue. But she has raised eyebrows around the WNBA, and a lot of people are like to saying that they should remove the commissioner, but that's not going to happen. But let me be clear, when she was in her soliloquy talking about the rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, it's like the bird and magic. I produced a show, and I stated that same thing, that this rivalry can almost be like the bird and magic. It's good for the game. And I stand on that. And the reason why, when I was listening to what she said when she brought up the rivalry, is because she sidestepped the whole racism thing. She didn't address that. Now, if she would address that, it'd have been different. But I stand on what she said about the rivalry because it is good for the game. But all the other stuff, the racism and stuff like that, it's no place in the game for that. And she could have made note of that, but she never addressed that. So for the people that didn't know what Cathy Engelbert said, we're going to listen to what she said in her interview, followed up from what Breanna Stewart said, where she was visibly disappointed in the WNBA commissioner. So let's take a listen to what Cathy Engelbert said, followed up by what Breanna Stewart had to say. Let's take a listen.
Between players, in the case of Angel Reese, who's just had to shut it down because of a wrist injury, Caitlin Clark, who's continuing to play. Rivalry that goes back to their college days, presumably, where I guess some trash talking entered in. But now it seems on some social media channels to have taken a darker turn, a more menacing turn, where race has been introduced into the conversation, where sexuality is sometimes introduced into the conversation. How do you try and stay ahead of that, try and tamp it down or act as a league when two of your most visible players are involved, not personally, it would seem, but their fan bases are involved in saying some very uncharitable things about the other?
Well, the one thing that's great about the league right now, we do sit at this intersection of culture and sport and fashion and music. Like, the WNBA players are really looked at now as kind of cultural icons.
True.
And when you have that, you have a lot of attention on you. There's no more apathy. Everybody cares. It is a little that Bird Magic moment, if you recall, from 1979 when those two rookies came in from a big college rivalry, one white, one black. And so we have that moment with these two. But the one thing I know about sports, you need rivalry. That's what makes people watch. They want to watch games of consequence between rivals. They don't want everybody being nice to one another. So the social media is different today than it was in 1979 when it didn't exist. But, you know, I always tell the players, you know, I was told a long time ago, if someone's typing something in and you wouldn't ask their advice, ignore it. So it's a balance, but certainly from a marketing dollars, but corporate partners are stepping up to endorse these players much more so than they were 5 years ago, because they see the benefit of having women and diverse women representing their brand.
I agree. Rivalries are good. Manning and
I saw the interview today, and then have been in talks with Terry at the WBPA. I think that it's kind of disappointing to hear, because you know the way that the fans have surged, and especially behind Caitlin and Angel coming to this league, but also bringing like a race aspect to a different level, and you know there's no place for that in our sport, and I think that's really it. Is we want to race, gender, and really a place where people can be themselves. So we wish, obviously, Cathy would use her platform in a different way and have made that a little bit better. But kind of just telling the fans, like, enough is enough. You know, become a fan of our sport, and for the new ones, like, lock in on everybody, but don't be disrespectful, because as a league, like, we stick together, and there's no place for that.
They only here to cause confusion.
Now, you heard exactly what Breanna Stewart said, and I totally agree with her. Cathy Engelbert, as the commissioner, she can use her platform a little better. I mean, her voice is powerful because she is the WNBA commissioner. Now, she comes off as a very intelligent person. She has degrees in financial, you know, things, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, she's about that dollar bill. And she referenced to that when she was talking about, you know, the endorsement deals, how these players are getting these deals. But Breanna Stewart was saying that, you know, it's no place for that racism or anything like that. You can put a halt to that. You can, you know, voice your displeasures and get it out to the public to let them know, because we all know the late, great David Stern, the ex-NBA commissioner, you know, he wasn't standing for all that. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't running from, you know, questions like this. They would address it head on. So I think in this situation, the reason why she's getting that backlash is the way she sidestepped it. And, you know, Breanna Stewart is a member of the WNBA's Players Association, and she just fired back at Cathy Engelbert, you know, telling her, you know, you could have went about this a different way. And I totally agree with Breanna Stewart. There's no place for this in basketball. And the way Breanna Stewart was saying it, hey, there's other females in the WNBA we can focus on. She wants attention to everybody, but it don't have to be this hateful and racist stuff when it comes down between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. And we all know where that stems from. We're not putting all Caitlin Clark fans in a bunch, but 60 to 70% of her fans, this is what they do to Angel Reese, and it's uncalled for. And I'm glad Breanna Stewart stood on business and said what she had to say. So hopefully that'll, you know, take and move shockwaves through the WNBA. And I hope that Breanna Stewart's voice got out to the public to let them know that there's no place for this in WNBA and women's sports. So you guys let me know what y'all think about how Breanna Stewart handled the situation, how she really clapped back and fired back at Cathy Engelbert. But that's going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K. Sapp, and we're going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
That's all, folks.